Understanding project management methodologies is essential in order to implement projects. Not only just for the implementation actually, but also for the planning and evaluation of them. So let's have a look at some of the most commonly used project management methodologies. Well, there's the traditional methodology, which involves an initiation phase, a planning and design phase, and executing phase, monitoring and controlling phase, and closing phase. So what this methodology does is that it breaks down the project into manageable phases in order to improve control, in order to improve performance, and in order to identify what requirements are characteristic of each individual phase. Now, the traditional project management methodology is a generic model for all projects, and some projects will have to redo phases 2, 3, and 4 several times. In other words, they're going to have to go through the planning and design phase, the executing and monitoring and controlling phases over and over until they get it right before they can close the project. The Waterfall methodology is also a traditional model of project management where you break it down into requirements and specifications, design, implementation, integration, testing, installation, and maintenance. The Waterfall project management methodology is widely used in large-scale software development projects. The stage gating model is a methodology that is used for new product development or innovation-driven project. It involves a series of gates and stages. Now, different stages require different work to be done. And before you can progress to the following stage, they must go through a gate. Now, in each gate, the project management team must make a decision in order to decide whether or not to continue with the project, in order to kill the project, or in order to recycle the project. In other words, go back and get everything fixed so that the project can move on. You've got the first gate, which is the idea screening, the first stage, which is scoping. Second gate is the second screen. The second stage is the building the business case. The third gate is when you actually go to the development. And the fourth gate is the going to the testing, to test the product that you're actually wanting to develop. The fourth stage is the testing and validation. The fifth gate is when you go to launch, and the fifth stage is actually the launch of the project. Program evaluation review techniques and network diagrams are also common used methodologies similar to the ones that we saw in the previous slides. Now, these type of methodologies are suitable for complex projects such as construction projects. One of the main characteristics of network diagrams and PERT, in contrast with stage gating, is that once the project has started, it must be completed. Now think about what this means and think about what kind of methodology suits different types of projects. A construction project, for example, once it starts, must be completed. You start to build a house, you set the foundations, you start to erect the walls and erect the structure. Now, if halfway through the project you decide to cancel the project or to stop it, then you will incur in additional cost because you have to cover demolition costs. You might incur in fines for late completion and so on. So once you start, you must finish, like in a construction project. The stage gate model, on the other hand, which is used for new product development, gives you the opportunity and the flexibility to cancel the project at any point in time if you realize that your project might not have the expected outcomes. What can happen? So this in technology companies, for example, let's say that they're developing a new software, and halfway through the software development process they realize that there is a new technology in place, or that the actual project that they're working on has now become obsolete because of new advances in the market. Therefore, it makes no sense to continue with the project, and when it reaches a certain gate, the decision to kill the project can be taken. PRINCE2 is another widely used and internationally accepted methodology. PRINCE2 stands for Projects in Controlled Environments. Now, this is a very structured approach that consists of specific inputs and outputs to the project. It describes the procedures to coordinate people and activities, including design, supervision, and evaluation. It is used in large-scale and complex projects, and one of the main drawbacks of this methodology is that it requires specific training in order to learn how to implement it. There are specific courses that can qualify project managers to use the PRINCE2 methodology. Now, also, there is the Agile project management. Agile project management is one of the most modern approaches for project management because it deals with the fast-changing environment that we now live in. It contrasts sharply with the traditional approach because it's based on principles of human collaboration, and it involves relatively small tasks that are coordinated to be highly flexible and thus quickly adapted to environmental changes, unlike traditional methodologies which involve solid, pre-planned structures and procedures. Agile project management is a methodology that is used in technology-driven projects, interactive projects, and small to low to mid complexity software development projects. So we've now looked at some of the key components of project management: scope, budget, objectives, strategy, quality, the customer, and different methodologies to actually plan, implement, and monitor projects. But before we can actually start to carry out or to develop our own specific project, we must look at what's happening within our organization, within our project team, and in our external environment. So analyzing the environment is essential to successful project management. We must look at the internal environment by using tools such as SWOT analysis, the McKinsey 7S model, or the BCG matrix, among others. The external environment would involve looking at Porter's 5 forces, or looking at external components of a SWOT analysis, or doing a pest analysis. I'm going to very briefly mention what each of these internal and external environment analysis tools are. The SWOT basically deals with the strengths and weaknesses when we're talking about the internal environment. The McKinsey 7S models has identified some hard S's, such as the strategy, the structure, and the system of an organization. We also have the soft S's, which are the skills, shared values, staff, and style. Keep in mind that all of this is an analysis that you conduct within the boundaries of your organization. The BCG matrix is another model developed by the Boston Consulting Group. Here we use several quadrants to distinguish in which category will your company fall under. So we've got the question marks, which are companies that have a high market growth, but strangely a weak market share. We also have star companies, which have a high market growth and a strong market share. We have cash cows, which have a low market growth and a strong market share, and we've got the companies that are classified as dog companies, which are low market growth and weak market share. Now, depending on in which quadrant your company will fall under, you can decide to implement the following strategies, such as increasing market share, hold your market share, invest, or divest. The external environment uses other tools. Well, the SWOT analysis is also used, but here we look at the opportunities and threats that are present in the market. We also look at Porter's 5 forces: the bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of consumers, the threat of new entrants to the market, the threat of substitute products, and the competitive rivalry within the industry. The past analysis is also very commonly used to identify the characteristics of what's happening on the external environment of an organization. So we look at political issues, economical issues, socio-cultural, technological, and legal issues that might have an influence on the outcome of a project. From your external and internal analysis, we move on to risks. Now, risks can be classified as the inability to control chance events due to environmental uncertainties. Particularly now, in the turbulent economic times that the global economy is going through, risk assessments are essential for successful project management. Risks have a cause and a consequence, and in order to manage them, you must identify what the specific risks are and then determine the probability of this risk to occur and analyze the impact that it has on the project. You do this by a quantitative assessment of the risk, complemented by qualitative characteristics of the risk. Resources are essential for any project. Resources can be any physical or virtual entity of limited availability that needs to be consumed to obtain a benefit from it. Key word here is limited. Now, what are the things that we can have limited? Well, they can fall under tangible, intangible, natural, artificial, renewable, or non-renewable characteristics of a resource. And all of these resources must combine together in order to provide the right mix in order to deliver projects. Examples of resources can be time and knowledge, capital, raw materials, equipment, infrastructure, people, networks, contacts. All of these risks interact. Now, project management, what it does is that it creates a synergy. A synergy of all of these different ingredients. So if we use the example of a baker to fully explain what synergy means, let's imagine that a baker must bake some cakes. So he has some resources at his disposal. He's got the main ingredients, which are flour, eggs, butter, sugar, milk. He also has some equipment like an oven. He's got time at his hands, and he's got knowledge. But if he does not combine these resources in the right mix, he will not be able to deliver synergy. Think about it. If I were to open an oven and just chuck in a bag of flour and a carton of eggs, and then a stick of butter and turn the heat up, then the result will be a disaster. But if I can use the knowledge that I have at my disposal, and I can take the right ingredients to deliver a recipe for success, and I take the right amount of all of these resources and I use it in order to create the mix, in order to put it in the mold, and in order to bake the cake, then what I will have after will be much more than the combination of these resources. I would have delicious cake, and this cake will be a synergy of all of the resources that I would have at my disposal. Let's take another short break and continue in a couple of minutes.